What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Cemetery Explorations. Today we are in northern Illinois, and this is a really interesting old cemetery. And as you can see, we're not too far away from the sun setting here, so we only have a couple of minutes, but this is a really interesting place, and I'm going to take a quick walk through it. And we have to start over here. There are some interesting and notable people here, and especially people with ties to moments in history. This is Grace Stevens. Hopefully you can read that, 1891 to 1915. She was a victim of the Eastland disaster in Chicago in 1915. That was one of the most deadly maritime disasters in American history. I believe something around 900 people were killed that day. It was an outing for a company in Chicago area. I'm always fascinated by these old stones. A lot of these are in remarkable shape for their age. Leonard Thurston, Jefferson County, New York. Died Rockton, Illinois, November 24th, 1898. He has the American Legion marker on here, so he must have been a Civil War veteran. Lots of Civil War veterans here. Edward Collier. Passed away 1880. There's something interesting about just walking through cemeteries and learning a little bit about the history of people. You always have to be careful here, be respectful, try not to walk over anybody's space here. But we are all, if you're on this channel, odds are you're interested in the same type of thing. Robert Gayton. Private Company G, 162nd Infantry, World War I, 1895 to 1970. Looks like this one has seen its better days. Now just over here is something that I can't recall ever seeing one of these in a cemetery before. Let's wander over here and I'll show you just what I mean by this. It's not too often that you see a cemetery that allows you to plant a garden in the family plot, but that's pretty awesome. James Lee Skirvin, 1964 to 2001. Not a very long life. Now when you wander in a cemetery, during the day you have to watch out for wildlife. You can always run into, obviously there's going to be squirrels and things like that out there, but a lot of times also coyotes. You just never know. Deer. I have been here before several times, and just on the other side of this, down at the end of the drive here, there's a river that goes through. And a couple of years ago, I was actually walking through this cemetery, and I must have startled something over in the bushes over on that side, and a beaver came out and came charging at me faster than I ever knew that a beaver could run. And you better bet your rump that I hightailed it all the way back down here, and I got the heck out of here very, very quickly. Now here's something else that they used to say was the haunted witch baby, and they said that he was a child born to a witch, and this was a subject of haunted legend and lore for a lot of years around here. But this is Charles Wright, it looks like. But he died at 10 months old. And as you can see, a lot of people visit. They leave things, toys, rubber duckies, trains, pretty much whatever. But this theory was actually debunked. It was not a witch baby. And they actually put this out. If you want to read that, feel free to pause it and go ahead. But basically, the story of the witch baby was not accurate. It was just something that was made up years and years ago. And people kind of ran with it, and people kept telling the story. And I was told about that as a kid, and I always believed it to be true. But it was only recently that they put that that information out. So it's kind of interesting that they corrected history, because history can be kind of what people make of it, and you just never know. Sometimes things can be fabricated a little bit, and it's kind of like the game that we all played in school. You would tell the person next to you something, then they would tell it to the person next to them, and around the circle it would go. And by the time it got back to you, it was a completely different story than what originally started. Now, this place would have been something else back when this cemetery first started. But over here, there's a lot of people here that were Civil War veterans. But there's one specific person over here that is a kind of an interesting note in history. This is Elon J. Farnsworth, Brigadier General, fell at the Battle of Gettysburg, July 3rd, 1863, age 25 years, 11 months. Now, the story with this guy was he came from a long line of people who served in the military, and he was appointed Brigadier General by Abraham Lincoln, and he passed away at Gettysburg before the Brigadier General appointment was actually pushed through Congress. So they have Brigadier General on his tombstone here, but that was not actually his rank when he was killed officially. But Elon J. Farnsworth, kind of an interesting note. And there's a place called the Farnsworth Inn in, I think, Pennsylvania, that is one of the most haunted hotels in the country. Kind of something else interesting to look up if you're curious about that kind of thing. The ones like this are pretty interesting. Now, there's a visitor here on this one, but George Warren, 30 years old. In some weird way, it kind of cracks me up when it says age 30 years, kind of like, you know, the meat that you would find at a steakhouse. I know that's not very appetizing or anything like that, but I just always got a kick out of how they used to word things back in the day. Ruth Shibley. She made it 68 years. That's pretty decent for back then. Henry Shibley, only 44 years old, died 1865, only months after Lincoln was assassinated. But really interesting stonework on these. And then a random staircase, or a couple of stairs, I guess you could say. I don't know, call me weird, but there's something kind of peaceful and relaxing about being amongst quiet neighbors at night. You know, as long as you're respectful and you're following the rules, don't leave anything behind. There's something really nice about going through and learning the history of people. Now, here's something else. I don't know if any of you would have interest in EVP sessions or anything like that, but a couple of months ago, I was here with a group of paranormal investigators that have a channel, and I was doing work for another channel, but we were here at this gravestone here, and this is, I believe it was, I'm looking back here, it's William and Marilyn Moore. And when we were over here, we were getting a lot of weird EVP things here, and we had the I think it's called a Spirit Talker, and it was saying a lot of interesting stuff. But if any of you have interest in that, please let me know in the comments if that's something that you want me to try to do occasionally on this channel, because I am willing to do it. And we're also friends with a couple other channels who specifically do paranormal investigating. So if that's something that you'd like to do, please let me know, and we will do it. But it's starting to get a little bit darker here, and you know, as it gets darker, there is not a fence at this particular cemetery, and sometimes you get some creepy vibes out of people that come in here. You know, you get some kids that drive down here that look like they don't have the best intentions. You know, they come over here and park by the river and do whatever it is that kids do. But here's one other interesting thing. It's just a really interesting old cemetery. There's an old cannon from the Veterans Association, dated 1897. It's pretty unique. And over here is the Cole family stone, which I've always really liked this one. But that's about all the more we have time for tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and let me know in the comments what you think about not only this place, but if you want to try the EVPs or if any of that interests you, please let me know. But thanks for joining us today, and we'll catch you later.